Hi guys, welcome back to Sodor's Tuesday electrical blog. This has been released on a Wednesday recently, just to stagger the posts that we're doing over Facebook and Twitter. This week we are going to focus on the accessories that we use electronically with Sodor, and kind of what we found across the internet to make things cheaper and more interactive as well. So we're going to start with sound and what we use for kids and adults to push and make various sounds across the layout, and then we'll venture on to smoke and then show you kind of some of the electronics behind one of our bigger boards. So let's get started with sound. Here we have sound modules. So we've got a laptop speaker here that we're able to pick up fairly cheaply from used spares and eBay and stuff like that for £2-3. The advantage of these is that it's wired, not Bluetooth, doesn't need a battery, and plugs straight into the sound modules that we've got. Here we've got a tiny PCB that allows for an SD card or a USB stick, in this case USB stick, to be inputted, reads the content on there, so a small MP3 file, and then outputs that by either 3.5mm jack or the phono to this board here. Notice that it's powered by a micro USB, so 5 volts. We'll get into power supplies in a second. Then comes to a mini amplifier that helps increase the sound. So you've got audio feed in, volume control, and then over here we've got the 12 volts power, that's the white and the purple there, and then your output to the speaker, and then obviously it comes up to speaker. So how do we control it? We've got another arcade style button just here. This again is powered by 12 volts power supply, similar to what we discussed last week when we were using the turntable control button. So in with this, before we get into that, we've got a lot of wires coming in here. You'll notice that this is a foam insulation foam board. When we discussed on how to build this layout initially, we wanted to try new things, and one of them was foam boards. Twofold to this is that it's cheap, it's durable, lightweight, which is a key factor, as it's going to be transported quite a lot between houses and various locations, and also that we can mould it and shape it to how we want. So at the moment there's 2 foam boards on it up here, which means we've got the ability to carve away and create scenes with it. The disadvantage of foam, as we've discovered, is that especially with wiring, as you can see, it's quite hard to pin across it. There's only certain types of glues, and for example, a screw obviously won't stay fixed in it, it will just pull away. So we initially tried routing all the cables in along here and then putting them in with some foam adhesive. However, as you can see, it melted the foam and creates kind of a bit of loose wires. Some better examples of how we got on here was we ran a foam cutter along here to create a little groove for the wires, and then we've put PVA on top of here, which keeps it nice and in line. So a learning curve going forward, that trying to hide wires and tidy wires in a foam board isn't great. So we've done our best. We've got cable ties and said PVA that's holding the best of it in place. No wires that are in danger of being caught. Despite the spaghetti kind of junction that's going on, everything is color coordinated, and everything match up and is unanimous across every board that we use. Okay, so sound. I'm going to deafen you slightly here. We're going to push this button here, and you'll notice that we get the troublesome trucks. I'll just turn that down a little bit. So troublesome trucks, playing that. This is something that loads of the kids and adults love. Not other exhibitors around us, because they get a bit fed up with the noise after a while. But it's a nice little sound to keep everyone engaged. As you can see, easily adjustable for volume there. So if we are in a small exhibition, we can turn down and up if we need to. The way that works is power then gives power to the amplifier and turns it on and allows for music to come out. We initially had that button linked to the MP3 player here. However, we were getting a lot of static interference for no apparent reason. So we've had to switch it around so that the MP3 player is continuously playing, and the amplifier then just turns on and off to power the speaker there. There's two of those currently on Sodor. So we've got the one here with the troublesome trucks, and then on one of the other main boards we've got one with the troublesome trucks singing along, criticising James and how slow he is, essentially. We've then got another push button up the top just here, blue one. This links in to one of the smoke outlets that we have. So again, 12 volts into the button to make it illuminated, and then it's 5 volts that activates through the push button, connects it, and comes down to one of these. Now, this is a 3D printed mounting hole for one of our smoke units. There's two on this board currently. So this one here, and then that one just over there. So 3D printed, goes through the board with a plastic tube in there, which stops water residue building up. You then got magnets either side here which connect to this. So again, 3D printed. This was one of the initial ones we did, hence there's a bit of markup along it and some debris. However, it works perfectly. So in here, essentially a little water tank with cotton wool here that connects to the underneath of our smoke unit, which we'll go through in a second, and allows for water levels depending on to drop but still provide water and moisture to the smoke unit. This connects by magnet onto there, which we'll go through in a moment as well. The smoke unit is powered via a 5 volt feed, which again is connected to that button up there, and it goes from there. These are humidifier units from AliExpress, eBay. You can pick them up for about £2.50 each. We found them to be quite effective so far, and we found that water tanks will last through for the majority of a day at an expedition with fairly regular use. So it's a case of just popping that, make sure this wire is here, and so you see fire up there. I'm just going to put it back in line and we should get some continuous use. So ordinarily when these are in the units just here, these blocks here, here, here and here push the smoke unit into place, so it's always in place and creates water. So you can see there, see if you can get a better shot showing the smoke. You can see it for a second there. See it come out there. So that's essentially on and off. Kids love pressing it and are amazed by the result of it. I'll show it hooked up in a moment when we turn the board over, and how effective it is from there. Last week we went through the plug and play DC sockets for lights and other connections. With the foam board, we've had to create slightly longer connections because the foam boards are that much dense, and it goes through here. Again, these are put in place with PVA and a custom 3D printed socket. Again, wires connect through to a 12 volt master coming in from these two sockets. These two sockets, which we went through briefly last week, cover all the feedback and power for this board and go back to our central hub. Hence, there's a lot of wires combining there. In short, your green wires coming out here for your track detection and feedback, which we went through last week. Red, blacks for power, your 5 volts, and then also your purple and whites being for your 12 volts. You've then got various other colours coming up there. Grey and orange are 5 volts, but linked to a relay decoder in the control box, which we've gone through 2 weeks ago. And then you've got other colours, your yellows, your blues and oranges, which cover the servos in and out, hence just here. Notice on here, as we picked up earlier, these are all your track feeds, black, green where need be, and then you've got a necessary red and black there, which covers your undetected track. So that's the basics of wiring for underneath this layout. Over here you've just got a couple of blocks that aren't powered here at the moment. these connect to, as a temporary measure, to the kids board that we've got, which is a circular loop for the younger kids to control, by a DC controller, also by a DCC tablet, which is a great introduction for children into what we do, and very interactive for them. Here we have the other side of the board. As you see, powered on at the moment, missing buildings and a bit of fence work, which we covered last week. Also sustaining a little bit of damage in transport recently, which Richard's capable hands will be able to recover. So, earlier on we discussed about foam being able to be carved away and moulded and shaped to however we want. An example just here of how we've been able to carve away the foam and create a little pond scene with some ducks there, which kids really like. Back to electronics. So we've got a buffer stop here illuminated with a 12 volt red LED. You've got smoke housing just here, infrared, which needs covering up a little bit, but acts as a stop point for trains. So essentially a train will come into here, picked up on the iTrain system, which we discussed with the feedback, as represents there. I put my fingers on it to draw current, it picks up just there, and then train would go over the IR. iTrain would recognise that train has passed it and stop it correspondingly in about 2 seconds once it passes the smoke unit. Smoke unit then powers on. Then we've got the entrance to the board here, which will come off the main 50-foot board that we're building at the moment around the circular unit. It comes into Duck's branch. Separate side shunt there, and then comes onto this nice freeway point just here. Freeway point comes up into this bit, into the board that we was on last week with the coal hopper, that then goes into the turntable, and then main tracks that then go on to the end board, which covers the station and also a little depot. Other things to discuss, you got servo hidden away just there, which covers and controls this point just here. Every other servo has got covers on it. This has been removed for illustration. So here, for example, another one that needs a little bit tidied up. And then the side of the board, you've got the LEDs that we went through, the push buttons with some labels correspondingly. So if we push and hold this one, you get the noise of the trucks and trucks stopping and starting. Then got holes here, 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 and here for the lights to be plugged in. Lights are currently in storage, so I can't show you that today, unfortunately. Okay, smoke. So we push and hold this button, the blue buttons we said a moment ago, and smoke comes out. Let's see if we put a black border behind that, just put a bit more emphasis on it. There we go, that shows it a bit better, doesn't it? So smoke comes out like that, a really good flow, and so we have about a day's worth of usage out of a full tank there. This one in particular is hooked up to a chimney with the Sodor woodworking shop next to it, so you get a constant stream of smoke that comes out when someone presses that button. So it's a nice little surprise for kids to see. That's the end of this week's video. Next week we will be going through the turntable board and how we've set that up and where we got the parts from. Thank you for watching and taking an interest in our project. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and give us a thumbs up and like on YouTube as well. See you all next week.